Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we are talking about Arachnophobia, the sleepiest Jaws knockoff there has ever been. I'm your host, Nick Hoffman. This week I am happy to talk to you as we start April. We're in a kind of blissfully random month with just a few movies we've always meant to do. But we're rapidly approaching the end of our season, so if there's anything that you should be thinking about, it's, sharing and reviewing, because, frankly, we do this because people listen, and we do it because you like it, and you telling us about how you like it and what we can do better is how we improve and keeps us going. So thanks for doing all you do, and bye. Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we're going to make sure you check the shower as much as you watch Psycho. Ugh. I'm your host, Nick Hoffman, and Riffer on Cineprov. Candace told me to mention that, and on panel we've got...
Also Riffer on Cineprov, Nortranet.
And I'm Charlie. Nothing special, just me.
You're special to me.
Atlanta author Matthew W. Quinn, and this is one of the earliest movies I can remember being new in theaters, but I never saw it.
You did? Did you see it in theaters or not?
No.
Oh, all right.
I was like 5.
So,
White Fang was fine. This was not.
You're a fucking child.
Yeah.
I went to see this. I had a date to go see this movie.
Really? 1990.
Yes.
It's a day movie, right? It's a little bit, well, the trailer makes it look more of a horror movie than it turned out to be.
It was summer between my 9th and 10th grade year.
Yeah. So this movie stars, before he shot himself in Dumb and Dumber, a Jeff Daniels, a delightful John Goodman who steals the show whenever he shows up.
Absolutely.
We've got Julian Sands in it. We've got Harley Kozak in it, and then just character actors. I do love a movie filled with character actors because they fill their role delightfully.
Very much so.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, based on the title, I guess, this is a horror movie about spiders. It is set up as your cookie cutter monster comes to town movie. It could be Jason Voorhees. It could be Tremors. It could be, hell, it could almost be Jurassic Park. But this movie is about spiders coming to town. How many of you...
Arachnophobia, that makes sense. That was a bad joke. That was a bad...
It was like,
I just like Latin.
Was your...
I didn't mean to mess you.
So how many...
I was going to get you a bless your heart.
Okay.
No, we know it was a date movie. How many of you was this the first time you've seen this?
It was the first time I actually saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
So this came out in the 90s. So when it came into fruition, like it came on HBO, and my sister actually refused to watch this movie because she didn't like horror movies for things that could actually happen.
Sure.
So spiders coming out of the tub from this in general is just, ugh. Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
So I've seen the whhole thing before this because it was on TV a bunch, but as a theatrical experience, I bought this for whatever it was, $5 on Amazon, sat down and just watched it. This is probably the first time I've watched the not TV version all the way through. Spoiler for the end of this. This is a delightful comedy.
It's a solid movie.
Comedy? It's gross.
It is a comedy.
It's a comedy horror.
John Goodman.
That was the thing. Remember, so the 80s began this trend in horror. The 80s began this trend in horror where you were doing comedy horror,
right,
or horror with a touch of comedy.
Okay.
And so, it started with, let's get a little tongue-in-cheek with Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Be afraid of these spiders, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
For that.
Freddy Krueger.
Or Friday 5, where you have Crispin Glover trying to get laid. He's like, "Where's the corkscrew?" Right before he gets killed with the corkscrew. Like,
exactly.
You lay into the stupid comedy.
Yeah. And so this was part of the trend,
right,
where horror went, and has never left.
Okay.
Horror comedy is a very prevalent genre these days.
No, I respect that.
No, and it's
possible future episode, Freddy versus Jason. They don't even care anymore.
Well, but I will say the problem is, for what Charlie said, is people reacted the wrong way, which is rather than do just straight horror, we start getting that torture porn stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right, like
Saws
we get your
and shit,
Hostels and your Saws, and now finally we're getting some better stuff. You know, the Dave Eggers, rather, Nosferatu. We're starting to get the witches, but
Like
took
thinking men's horror.
Us.
Yeah.
Less
social commentary and things like that. Yeah.
Well, that's what horror's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to comment on things, right? When I teach the Puritans, for example, I say the Puritans might be terrified by the flickering pictures, but they would understand a Mike Myers movie, not Austin Powers, but Michael Myers, because what do? Well, if you drink too much, you smoke too much, you have too much premarital sex, you're going to die.
When you brought up
Puritan stuff.
When you brought up Austin Powers, by the first thing that came to mind was slashing, baby. Yeah.
Smash the fucking spider.
No, I said slashing, baby. Yeah.
There was
Austin Powers is a serial killer.
But like, I just
Blood in the velvet.
don't know. And I was telling this people before, like, when I watch Ant-Man, like just the ants, the horror movie Ant-Man with Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas. It was just. No, it's just like I'm not afraid. I'm not I don't like bugs. I like bugs, but I just don't want them around me. I understand there's a whole circle of life thing. I tried to eliminate all the spiders around my house, but by doing so, I got cockroaches, and then I've got a terminate.
Kids has a tragic moment where you're holding an ant as it's dying.
I leave spiders alone because I know they eat everything else.
Well, there is this. It is a frequent occurrence to focus on insects, spiders, bugs in horror. I mean, it is not a. It
is.
It's not unknown.
We've all seen Madam Web, yes.
No, but look.
At this point, is that a previous episode?
Yeah. I mean, but there's also like you open the dead person's mouth and the roach comes out. Is that the previous episode, Silence of the Lambs, where he's putting the moths in people?
Or is this a great big fat spider? Creep show with the seasons with the roach.
I just
like her. But also, interesting note, great segue to get back on topic. Wait, what? Like the Creep Show mini episode with the cockroaches,
right?
The arachnophobia; those were all real spiders.
Yeah,
that's this.
Like they had to bring in spider handlers, and they had to.
One that he boxes at the end, which is
okay. That was a fake.
If I was on an episode of Fear Factor and they brought up like, oh, you get in the tub with a bunch of, I can't.
Well, okay, so first of all, we gotta focus. You gotta focus your energy on anti-spider heroes like Daniel Stern in Home Alone.
Sure.
And the tarantula is there, and he's just with a crowbar. Masterpiece.
Or in this one, John Goodman, who's like a PG version of the guy from Graveyard Shift. He just loves his job a little too much.
I was getting a lot of Sling Blade vibes from him when he was doing it. To say, spiders.
Okay, that's good.
You know what? I hear there's spiders up in the walls. Yeah, no, dude, that's.
I ain't got no gas in there. Yeah.
I got Angelina Jolie.
Billy. No, that was that Billy Bob? That was
Sling Blade is Billy Bob Thornton.
I thought. Oh my God! Do you know who I thought Sling Blade was the entire time? Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay, that's weird.
No, I'm so fucking embarrassed. I thought.
Yeah, by the way, if you told me that you secretly were being played by Daniel Day-Lewis, that's just
you would really, yes. I'm gonna rip my mask off. Yeah,
right?
no.
God help me.
So, arachnophobia
to Romancing the Stone, right? Like.
Or Madam Web.
I'm telling it's the same. Like they would South America researching spiders.
So we will start with the cold open, and then we'll talk about the plot itself. But so the cold open is, in fact, it took so long to kick into the regular movie. I thought I had got the wrong thing at first, like I was watching the wrong file. But we start with the guy who. Well, it looks like the guy from Wings, who's in George of the Jungle.
Yeah.
But essentially, we're in South America. We're in Peru, right?
Venezuela.
And the whole thing is that he's he's arachnologist. He's looking for new spiders. And because of recent weather events and erosion, they're able to get into this weird pit in the middle of the forests, the jungles, that has never been seen before. And so they're looking for new species. And they have this guy who is a photographer who's, I guess, a sports photographer, wearing a Dolphins hat.
Mark L. Taylor, who's the character is Jerry.
Yeah.
Just reading the cast, that's Jerry Manlin.
And frankly, I kept thinking he was different character actors depending on the light, because he's just a nobody. But this movie is filled with character actors, and better for it. There's no cameos. It's better for it. As they descend into this pit, there's these rumors of spiders. We're told we're looked for any number of insects. They're I guess technically looking for anything, but in particular they're these butterflies that he's interested in. They've created these sound cone things, which are supposed to disrupt the butterflies, and then they fall into them. But as they do, we hear these bigger and bigger things fall, and we start getting these, I mean, in real life they're tarantulas, but these are these unknown spider things. And then the movie just goes off the crazy rails.
Well, and I have to, I'm going to pause, and I'm going to say that they did a very good job with very practical effects.
Yes.
At this point, they did not show the spiders. What they would show is the bushes shaking, or the sound of things falling, or the a piece of the leg as it slips under the covers, or goes through a hole.
It's like Kojak.
Like, they don't show the whole thing; they just show a sliver of it or a piece of it.
At this moment,
fantastic, great effects.
Well, and at this moment, it's more like Jaws.
Yeah,
right? You see instead of the fin, we see a hairy leg. But again, that's just a puppet. It's not even a puppet guy. It's a PA dragging a thing that you got at, say, we're in Atlanta at Fernbank, and your basic science museum. It's a hairy leg, and like Charlie said, it works. Occasionally, we get something that looks akin to a corpse of a dead spider, but the dead spider is supposed to be dead. Ain't dead. Keeps bumping around.
This whole opening of the movie reminds me of the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, Romancing the Stone, Raiders.
And the thing about it is, you're, Matt, 100% right. This just has a little bit stupider. Like, there's no Spielberg behind this.
I thought Spielberg was making this movie.
I saw the movie.
Spielberg produced it. He's not directing it. There's no deft hand here. It's supposed to be a comedy. It would be like if the beginning of Raiders, instead of Harrison Ford, you got John Belushi. Like, oh, hey there, guys. There's here's the thing. There's at the end, this is Jim Belushi. At the end of it, there's an idol is made of gold. So I'm going to sing a little bit of blues music. Like, that's kind of what we got here, because the guy with his hair pulled back in his blonde ponytail, it's just kind of a smart
His voice is so soothing, though. Like, I would go into a 2000 deep hole if he asked me to.
Well, as a man who's going to leave this podcast literally to photograph a DJ set, a man with a blonde ponytail is like, no, what? No. What if you could take some pictures for me?
I would do it. No, I'll straight up do it. I'd be the dead photographer. I would.
They said you back all sucked off.
No. God. No. Here's the thing that scares you the most. And I do agree with my sister, and why should it? This shit could actually happen. Like, they started off, and we're probably going to go into, like, the actual movie of it. But
okay, so here's the thing. When I was a Ute, I watched Psycho for the first time, and I was watching it at my buddy's house, and his dad came in, and he goes, you know what? For 20 years after I saw Psycho, I was very careful in the shower. I didn't want to wash my hair in a way that could I'd have to close my eyes. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Noah.
Yes.
Now that you've seen this,
yes.
Are you afraid to wash your hair in a certain way that there could be a spider over your shoulder?
Or maybe you're gonna lift the toilet and look in before you sit down.
Yeah. Not just look in, but like look behind the bowl.
Like the bowl. Yeah. No.
Because that scene where John Goodman's like huge bear-like,
he couldn't even reach the spider.
There's a tarantula.
This movie just triggered my anxiety.
Yeah.
Turned it to 11.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, like dread,
Yeah.
Dude, and that
impending dread.
I understand.
that line, I forget who it is, if it's the coroner or if it's John Goodman, but whoever's the line is like, in every acre of country real estate, there's between 50 and 60,000 spiders, and they, 10,000. That means 2 million bugs a year.
Like,
And meanwhile, Jeff Bridges is doing some like Twitch math,
which I like. I rent a house now, but like I've experienced more insect like things, water bugs, termites, or so I seal machine, all that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'd rather just rent an apartment and not deal with this shit anymore. But it's just like, ugh. And like this like this shit could happen if we were in escapade in South America.
Okay,
yeah.
To wrap up the cold open. Jerry Manley dies.
Yes, big
because the
spider.
Spider bites it,
and we get this.
and they put him in a coffin,
They put him in a coffin.
a wooden coffin, and the
With
spider
holes in it.
falls into it, and gets transported back to this small town. Was it Cayman or something?
Yeah, came in like Southern California somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And
That was Southern California.
yeah, it's California.
Southern access. So that's no, yeah.
It's a small. It's a small coastal California town.
Yeah.
They're not going to cancel the 4th of July just for a few spiders.
Murder. That's been murdered in 50 years.
And Jeff Bridges is moving there because Jeff Daniels is moving there.
He has a whole Stephen King thing going on.
Well,
yeah.
That cemetery's about to break out on the other side of history.
He's been the previous town doctor.
So yeah.
Is supposed to be retiring and promised to hand off his patient load to him,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why he's moving there.
For a better life, for a quieter life, and I think his wife.
Yeah, and give his kids like a nice laid back, relaxed environment.
As most people
do from the big city, give them a little grounding.
San Francisco.
Just Charlie, help me out here, but like this was a big theme in the Reagan 80s.
Yeah.
Like, the cities were becoming hellholes, and so we've got to take our kids back out to the country.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's white flight.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it now.
It's a thing.
No, and I honestly, if
They talk about they want to escape the crime and grime, but then like we're also escaping the culture.
Well,
our
but
friends.
that's just it. Like previous episode, Death Wish, like it's happening, or 10 to Midnight is happening over there. So now we're gonna go out there and then fight the spiders instead of the minorities. I guess. Like,
Yeah. Well, so what happens is that so Manley gets sent back to this small town, and the spider comes with him.
And it spends the whole trip eating his corpse.
Yeah, or sucking the blood out of him.
yeah,
everyone's favorite sandwich eating corner. Dude, this mortician guy is the best character in here. He's so delightful, and him and his wife.
What is
and he's literally
Roy Brocksmith?
and he has a sandwich, and he's eating this dry, and it's 1980 whatever,
it was a BLT.
and it's a BLT, and he's puts the sandwich down on another coffin so that he can help guide in the.
It's just it's smart. They bring in all these just delightful character actors to add flavor to the small town.
Yeah.
I mean,
Local color immediately.
yeah, exactly, and that's I love that they rolled out Stuart Pankin. He was fresh off. He was very recognizable because he was fresh off of not necessarily the news.
Right.
I don't know if you ever saw that,
I've seen,
but it was a thing. She was a phenomenon.
What is not necessarily the news?
It's back in the 80s.
Yeah.
HBO did like very few short form comedy series.
Right.
Dream On was one of them. The other one was Not Necessarily the News. Not Necessarily the News was basically fake news.
Okay.
So imagine The Onion
Okay.
as a 30-minute show.
Yeah, so SNL in the 70s was the greatest thing on the planet. Not everyone could do SNL because SNL was 2 hours long, as it is. And so they would take individual segments of it and then spin them off into their own show. This was like the news segment.
Yep.
So it would be based in things that were kind of going on. It
Yep.
would just be absurdist, and that's what this was.
Yeah.
And so, and HBO being the channel which, again, kids at home, You would have TV, which was broadcast in the 80s. That was free. Then you would have cable, which would have the free stuff, but more stuff.
Premium
and then you would
cable.
have the premium, which would be HBO Cinemax.
Yep.
The movie channel.
The Disney Channel for a while.
Disney Channel at first. And so HBO could be a little bit raunchy.
I saw boobs on HBO or Channel 15.
And Cinemax.
Yeah.
The thing. And so that's what that was. And so you get these people who are, well, it's like now with Netflix. You find someone who can be funny, pitch me a show. Why not? And that's what it was.
Yep.
You'd find these young comedian types who would do weird shit. And that's what it would be. And that's what, and find those old clips. Reward old comedy. It's good. It's worth your time.
So you got this town being fleshed out.
Yep.
You've got the spider who comes back. Okay.
Yeah.
The spider makes its way to Jeff Daniels' property and sets up shop in the barn
with a female native spider. Bow chicka bow wow.
And-
Which I guess we to prop from that we found out that Jeff Daniels' character is or has arachnophobia. You know, so he has to do a spider because he was very traumatized while he was a little baby, and his son he has 2 kids, and you know, as they're moving into the nice country house, and as Jeff Daniels is looking at his house, and then the movers you know, carrying all the boxes, hey, be careful with that. That's my Chateau Tomorrow. Did I say that right? The Chateau Tomorrow.
He is such a wine snob.
Wine snob. But he's like, what is the $1,000 bottle? It's like, how's it taste? Like, I don't know. I'm too afraid to drink it. But then his kid yells out, "Oh my God, a spider!" And then he calls his wife, "Hey, honey, there's a spider." Into which, you know, she gets it. Like, oh, this cute little thing.
Handle
The movie about him reclaiming his masculinity.
Which I mean, I guess if I had arachnophobia and there were spiders around my kids, I'd get them.
Yeah, I mean, as Matt said, he's kind of technically the protagonist because he learns how to kill spiders.
Therapy, as his wife, it's
Yes.
therapy. It's immersion therapy.
I do like the idea. I mean, and again, it's an 80s trope, but that he's a yuppie. Like, he collects wine and she collects art, and they're very fancy people in this old white farmhouse. Like, it's delightful.
Yeah.
And we go to, like, in Southern California, but we go to like a Southern garden party at one point. Like, these are yuppie types, and he's the yuppiest of them all.
Yeah.
And he's afraid of spiders. That's what it's supposed to be. Like, if we're looking at this in terms of, you know, I almost said Reagan's America, but like this idea, he's reclaiming his masculinity. He's now can kill a bug. Like, I know spiders aren't bugs, but that's what it is. Like,
He kills a lot of bugs.
He does end up killing a lot of arachnids.
But yes, it does establish early on that he is terrified of spiders.
He does have almost a musical moment with a cricket at one point. We're almost about to say, "When you wish upon a star," he's looking at the little cricket.
So basically, the poor guy,
When you wish upon the Imperial Valley.
when he arrives, the doctor he was supposed to replace
Decides
that, oh, I'm not going to retire.
Well, he has a fear of death himself, is he not?
Well, he's afraid that if he retires, that he'll fall over dead, because you know that was a trope that when you retire, you sort of lose your zest for life and you die shortly thereafter. Okay, so he basically was like, I'm not retiring, and so now Jeff Daniels is in a weird position because he doesn't have any patience.
Yeah.
So he meets this lovely older lady
As he's leaving.
Well,
he's getting ticketed by the local.
by the sheriff.
Which, by the way, the sheriff, played by Stuart Hankins. The only reason why I know this guy, because there was a Disney Channel movie called Xenon, the girl of the 21st century, and he was like the captain, and he was also on some episodes as the dinosaur and stuff. So he's, again, a character actor. Yes. Yeah.
Well, and he's the one we were talking about with not necessarily the news.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how I knew him.
Okay.
And so basically, you know, he meets this older woman, and she's like, "Oh, the doctor, he's just a big mess.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy."
Yeah.
She says he still uses leeches.
He doesn't keep up, and she just totally trashes him.
Yeah.
So she wants to be Jeff Daniels'
First patient.
first patient.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when he meets with her, he checks her blood pressure, determines that her blood pressure really doesn't justify her having
The medication that
she's taking. So he suggests that she go off of it.
That's nothing a doctor has ever told me.
Exactly.
No.
So, which gets a little problematic because,
Coincidental. Yeah.
well, we've established that the Venezuelan spider, hooks up, bow chicka bow bow. Is that what you did, Matt?
Yes. Wow.
Wow. Thank you. And they hooked up and they created this army of drone spiders who can't reproduce.
Yeah.
But are sent out to conquer the territory.
Yeah.
As it is.
That's
social spiders are apparently a thing.
Yeah. So basically that happens, and unfortunately, one of the first kills of these spiders is this lovely lady.
Yeah.
And so now everyone, the doctor's like, the doctor who won't retire is now like, well, you killed her by taking her off this because she had a heart attack.
Right. Which.
But then he says people who have heart attacks don't bite off their own tongues.
Exactly.
First clue.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it sets up this tension where people are starting to die, and Jeff Daniels is like, wait, something is wrong here.
Yeah. Because even at the funeral of the lady who died, the local coach was just like, all right, I got a few patients for you.
Exactly.
Which I mean, just giving kids physical, but he examined all the kids. Cough.
I like the gesture.
Yeah.
Oh, if those who don't know, I'm just giving the whole
Testicle
screws. Yes. And then unfortunately,
one of the football players dies next.
Yeah.
And so of course the old cantankerous doctor is like, well, I wouldn't know what shape the boy was in because the last person to identify or diagnose this boy was Dr. Jennings.
And then he gets the
Jeff
reputation.
Daniels' character.
And he gets the reputation as Dr. Death. And the
Dr.
kids
Death.
are
Everyone
just like,
starts calling him Dr. Death.
Well, I mean, and we've talked about this as a horror. It's also kind of a Southern Gothic, right? Like it's a small town and murder outside.
It does. It really does have that feel. I mean, if they had more Southern accents, I would think that this would take place like in some small Georgia or Alabama town.
A holler.
Cut to everyone stoning him to death.
But that's kind of what it is at first, because we have this. When he's first introduced, we're on this. Main street that has 3 buildings on it.
Yeah.
And the old lady in like the 3 series is like, you know what, I could use a new doctor. Like, and then the guy who we see at the garden party, and then it turns out to be the coach. He's the only one who lives outside this world, but it's also, then we have, the Friday Night Lights scene. And the spider crawls into the guy's helmet.
See, that shit could happen. Oh.
You know what you do then? Check your fucking helmet for spiders.
I don't check for spiders, but
I do know that
this movie is like, stop. This movie is high anxiety.
It is high anxiety.
Yeah, but you know when the second John Goodman shows up?
It's got comedy relief. Yeah.
He's got a shitty couch. He's going to invite you for a beer. You're fine. It's John Goodman.
I think this was one of John Goodman's first movies.
Really?
Well, now, so Nor, this is when Charlie and I teach you a lesson about history.
Here we go.
Back in the day, it was much rarer to jump from TV to movies.
So he was still doing Roseanne and shit like that from that.
Yeah, and again, he's a big fat dynamo in this. And I mean that in the best way possible, because his weight here matters because he pushes people out of the way.
Yeah.
But the idea that you'd make that jump, it's not Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad, right? Like, or Batman. Or
Television was not a
respectable
medium yet. I mean, the even like the dramatic shows were considered jokes,
right?
Really, like ER?
ER's later, but even ER, like
late
George Clooney left ER to do Batman, and Batman was a disaster.
Yeah.
Like now, I mean, don't worry, Nora.
Yeah.
George Clooney was fine.
Yeah,
But
he's
think
fun.
about how many people in ER were big time movie stars afterwards.
Who was that chick that looked like Jennifer Aniston? That wasn't Jennifer Aniston.
No, I mean, but okay, like what about the biggest comedy of all time, Seinfeld? Jerry Seinfeld made a B movie.
Yeah.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus has legs. She
Yeah.
does, but she's still mostly in TV.
Well, you know,
Jason
Kramer.
Alexander, Kramer said some slurs and then never did anything again. But like Jason Alexander went to Broadway rather than.
Well, he was a Broadway guy. He was a very theatrical guy. But
No argument here. He's not. He's not in the MCU.
I do know. I do understand. I do understand that comparison because if you even go back into the '80s, where you got like Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox and stuff like that, it was like a big deal for him to like jump into film and things like that.
Exactly,
So yeah,
exactly. And people who were in movies would not ever do television.
that makes sense. It would be like a huge deal. Yeah, it's a very special episode.
I mean, and again, that's why.
So he does. That's where you go to retire.
That's right, and that's why
4
people
months
like
later.
Wes Anderson, Tim Burton, the Coen brothers matter because they would go to TV. Because again, like imagine The Big Lebowski without John Goodman, right? Like, or hell, any of these people. And so for Goodman here, he's the comic relief because he's a big fat guy here coming in like a dynamo, and that's what an 80s movie needs for comedy. But he steals the scene, and when you do that, you get other movies.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
I do like you already mentioned we're past this in some ways, but like that garden party, the most spill the tea thing I've seen in movies.
It was. I mean, it wouldn't have been better if it had been written by like Tennessee Williams himself. I mean,
it's a Mean Girls scene.
It is. It's totally. It is. It really is Southern Gothic.
Yeah,
I love it. It's fantastic.
We're watching Great Gatsby all of a sudden, like like they're like they're dancing. They're like these fat people shouldn't eat all these cookies. Like everyone's passive aggressive. You know that old doctor who's also at the party's like, he misdiagnoses a lot. And the woman who calls it's like, I've never felt younger. Dead. The way this movie is constructed, again, it's so much like Jaws. I almost want the Strawberry Festival to be about to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But since we don't get that, it's more like we have Wall Street in the background or something. We have this like capitalist drama about who's going to be the doctor of these patients.
Yep.
And him on his treadmill, the wife is like, won't you make love to me? Now I have to get my steps in.
It's like, well, how about we start going for a walk outside? And he's like, no, I need to know the exact distance and length of time I spent.
And meanwhile, crawling into his shoe.
I've never seen.
And then he dies, which is great.
It's great.
He manages to last long enough. Like, I'm having a seizure, call 911 or call Dr. Jennings or somebody.
The spider bite causes paralysis before they die, which is it's a fine, again, Shakespearean plot device. But so often in these movies we've done in the past, especially the 80s ones that Charlie shows up for, the solution is a cell phone. Yeah. How often is it a cell phone? This is the first one where it would be a Fitbit. Like, this wants to know his steps and his.
Yeah, exactly. No, but yeah. So it's with Dr. Metcalf's death is the third one, fourth if you count the photographer from the beginning. But it's the third death in this town, and so now Dr. Jennings, Jeff Daniels is like going, okay, something is up, and so I guess he would have been the prosecutor for the town.
I think the sheriff is one who doesn't want them to do the autopsy.
Well, he doesn't want to, but the prosecutor is the one who basically said,
the coroner.
No, the prosecutor.
Yeah, the coroner's a different guy. The guy who's like in the suit with the clean cut look.
He's like he's asking him like he's investigating and he's determining if like charges need to happen.
Right,
because he's trying to determine if Jeff Daniels is Dr. Death.
Yeah, Jeff Daniels early on has been, because the old doctor keeps accusing him of malfeasance.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So this happens, And so it's clear that, he has no ties to this. And they do an autopsy on him.
Yeah. Because everyone realizes he's an old asshole.
Yeah.
Because based on the cutting, we're not told this, but the old doctor's wife is the one who calls Daniel.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone realizes that he's out of date. Like, I almost wish if maybe we shouldn't do this because it would make it a modern movie, but in a modern movie, he would have misdiagnosed someone already.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there'd be a house-esque scene where because he made a blank decision, that quarterback was already hobbled in some way.
Exactly.
Right? But because we don't have that, it's a much cleaner, faster movie.
Yeah.
But also, everyone just eventually has to assume he's right.
Well, and it really is. He convinces the prosecutor
Right.
that they basically need to do the autopsies on the first two people to see if they also died of a poison.
Right.
Okay.
Like,
Because they determined that Metcalf had a poison in the system.
The fact that his toe looks like it was starting to rot on him had been held.
and I guess R.I.P. David Lynch. But it's a very like Twin Peaks-esque scene.
Yes.
Where he's like, I've been saying this all along. We've got to dig up the bodies. And it turns out that not only do the first guy have some toxicology readings that are like these weird little, it looks like venom. Like,
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
And then the other two have it. And then we have almost a dramatic shot like you're watching Contagion or something. He's like, we've got to quarantine the town.
Well, but it's at this point he thinks it's a spider because of the venom, the bite, everything. So he contacts the foremost authority on spiders on the West Coast, and that happens to be Dr. Atherton Julian Sands,
Right.
from the cold open.
Previous episode, right?
Yes, exactly.
From 45 minutes earlier.
Exactly. And so he recognizes the name of the town, but he doesn't know how he knows it. And he decides to send one of his graduate students.
Which is exactly what it feels so appropriate.
Yeah.
Like, because the guy doesn't know how to do anything right.
Mm-hmm.
And it does remind me, of any Ghostbusters or anything like that.
Yep.
Like, or you said earlier, Jaws. Like, it's as we're trying to do the autopsy on the shark, and they're just the guy's barfing in the
Oh,
cliff.
absolutely.
Like, no one knows what's going on.
So by this time, they've done an autopsy on all three. All three had the same venom in their system.
Right.
So now they're going to go see if they can find one of the spiders. And so they got the graduate student spider expert with them, and they capture a spider. When they go back, he calls Dr. Atherton and said, okay, something's up here. You need to come.
Right.
Come visit. And so, Dr. Atherton looks at the spider, determines, oh yeah, this is a problem. And then he realizes, Dr. Jennings, Jeff Daniels basically says, I think I know how you know the name of our town, because the, Jerry Manley, the photographer that was with you that died, he's from here, and his body was
watching
sent
the
back
movie
here.
the whole time. It
Yeah.
turns out that the guy who was wearing a Miami Dolphins hat was from here in Southern California.
Yeah.
No, and it's also the way they do it. We all of a sudden cut to a soap opera because he goes, "Do you know the name blah?" And he goes, and he looks at
Yes.
him and his blonde ponytail take it like 180-degree turn. He goes, my God. Like, it's almost as though he should have been drinking a cup of coffee so that the mug could have hit the ground at that moment, because he loses his mind. He's like, oh no, it's happening again. Anyway, regardless, we're now catching spiders. We know what's happening. And the only thing we haven't mentioned yet is at one point, Daniels is in the basement at his wine cellar, and he notices above him one of the 5x2s is turning to dust, and he's poking it. And he's like, "Well, we must have termites." we better call in the local exterminator.
And they do. And it's John Goodman. Fantastic. One of the best parts of this movie.
And the wife is giving lunch to the kids are eating lunch, and he's up there with the stethoscope listening to the I-beams. Holy hell, this movie takes a turn and it's remarkable.
It's hilarious. John Goodman does an amazing job.
That's where I guess the comedy comes from, is just him.
He takes the movie.
He steals it.
He wins the award.
He really does.
He's remarkable in this. And he's like, we could tear this whole thing down, fix the problem. And she's like, no. And he goes, all right, plan B. And we just move on. And the thing is, the movie is just a skosh over 90 minutes. I think it's 100 minutes. He shows up halfway through, and then it becomes his movie. Because the whole beginning of it is, it's any number of thrillers. Like, oh my God, there's a hairy leg. Like, oh my God, there's a spider. Oh my God, what's that barn? That barn has a web that's pretty big. And then all of a sudden he shows up like a dynamo. He's like, all right, termites? We can fix termites. Looks like a spider. Moving on. It's his movie. It's amazing.
It does. I mean, and at this point, it becomes it's that genre of movie where you've identified the threat, you know where the threat is, you need to go to the threat, and you need to destroy the threat.
Right.
Because I think at one point the football coach and his daughter are menaced by spiders, one in the shower with a girl and one in the toilet with him.
Well, just for 2 seconds, that spider scene, and again, I saw it more as an adult than I did as a kid, but it's the Psycho scene from Psycho. The spider, is hanging over, and she at one point reaches back into the world's most defined web. Doesn't care. She's reaching for the shampoo. But the fact that the spider comes over her hair, washes down her face, it's Psycho.
It's terrifying. It's anxiety ridden. It is so freaking triggering.
Even John Goodman later is in the coach's house, maybe even the same time the shower scene is happening, but he's reaching behind the turlet to put traps down and feel, because he's spraying chemicals with a question mark.
And there's a spider right by his hand.
Yeah.
There's lots of near misses with
And the chemicals don't work on them either.
Well, we see that outside because he's walking out of what looks like a treehouse. I don't know what to tell you. There's this bridge thing. There's a spider, and he's just hitting it with the drugs. And at one point, it doesn't die, so he just steps on it. But he's like, got another one.
Yeah.
As though he's held it.
Like he's keeping track or something.
Is this when he's like, I need the good stuff?
But so you've got the cowboy team of Dr. Jennings, Dr. Atherton, and Delbert McClintock, John Goodman's character.
Great name.
And the graduate student basically determining what their course of action is. They've got to stop these spiders before they breed again and make reproductive spiders. Because right now, only the parent is the one that is poisonous that can breed.
Well, and
everything else cannot breed.
And as you said earlier, these are mostly drones.
Yep.
And so for a bit, I believe it's Aliens, the second one. But there's now a queen that we have to find.
Exactly. Queen, you have to find and kill.
Yes.
And so they don't know where the nest is. And they determine that the nest is in the barn. And Dr. Atherton does, because he sees a picture of a spider web.
That's right. And we do get these it's like they're triangulating. It's very, again, it's 1980s.
It's let's map out where all these spider bites happen. They're here. What's the central part of that? The center of that is not the mortuary like you thought. It's Dr. Jennings' house.
We get a Hitchcock zoom, and it's just him going that's my house. Right? And we're this close to someone saying enhance.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like, it's so good. It's so stupid, but like
Well,
they're leaning into it.
yeah.
Again, the movie I thought of when I saw this was the original Tremors.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
where like we just have the one guy's like, we gotta kill the fucking spiders, man. Like,
Yeah.
we have this intensity, which frankly, if it's not there, this is not a movie. Like, we have a comedy, and so that's why it makes it work.
Yeah. But, so they determine using the map where the center is. Dr. Atherton separately determines that the spider is in the barn.
Right.
He goes in there. He dies. He gets bitten and spun up in webs. They come back. They discover his body. They go into the house, and that's when all the spiders hatch and start to attack.
We talk about this. We'll talk about this next week in the movie we do. I like how none of this is over-explained.
Yeah.
Because we have a spider expert. He could be pontificating the whole time, but instead the movie smartly does. Again, Morgan Freeman in Seven. Oh, he's accelerating, right? Like, because like we first get bugs, then we get mice.
Yep.
Then we get the dead cat.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, like you said, the spider expert is wrapped up.
At one point,
we know they're accelerating, they're growing.
at one point, it kills a crow. Like a bird picks it up and flies away, and then suddenly the bird just drops from the sky.
Yes. Yeah, that's almost the cold open. We don't like, that's when they're moving in. We don't see it wrapped up. And so later on, we see bigger and bigger things wrapped up. So we know that they're growing and becoming more
menacing.
Yeah, menacing's a good word. Malevolent.
Bum, bum. Zum, bum. Bum.
We're in the
bum,
final
bum, bum, bum.
confrontation.
Yeah.
They're in the house. Spiders are pouring out of every nook and cranny. I mean, this is absolute nightmare fuel right here.
This is the part where, like Creep Show, if you don't like them, you're gonna need to bathe after.
Yeah, you're gonna have.
But if you bathe,
nightmares.
the spider might be in there with you.
Dude, don't say that on the podcast. There's not enough Xanax.
This is already freaking triggering for a lot of people.
Yeah. Which is why, if you're not an arachnophobe, well, okay, so my arachnophobia, as it is, happens because I'm the tallest person in the room. So everyone who's ever on the podcast could walk in front of me, and the spider web would still hit my forehead. And that's what it is on a scout hike. We're walking along. Kid, child, adult, man, doesn't matter. The spider still ends up on me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid of those assholes, but if they end up on me, so here we are. And that's kind of what happens to our hero.
And the spiders are coming up from the basement. And so they can't leave because they're all over the door. They're all over every exit. So the only safe place to go is up because they're coming from the basement. So they go upstairs and out through the window. Jeff Daniels is a little bit too slow, doesn't make it out, falls from the second floor, and then because we've already set up that his house is rotting underneath him,
That's right.
he falls directly into the basement and discovers, oh, this is the nest.
With a pulsating sack.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you so very much for that.
That's right.
That is, I never knew that I needed you to say the words pulsating sack.
We're not saying.
And now you said
them. We're not. We're good. All right. I do like how he fights the spider like he's in a bar fight. It's just throwing pop.
It's hilarious.
His at one point he's literally checking the vintage of the wine before he throws it.
I mean, it's great. It's like making sure it's not the really expensive stuff.
Meanwhile, John Goodman has shown up with the good stuff. He's spraying acid.
Dude,
yeah.
John Goodman shows up as the hero in a different movie.
It's fantastic.
It's again, in the basement, we're having some sort of we're having an emotional drama, and upstairs Duke Nukem is happening. Like, it's just so delightful that John Goodman shows up like Rambo, dual wielding a weapon. He's like, "Don't worry, guys, I got this." And in the basement, we're having this He's overcoming his fear. We're having an emotional moment. John Goodman is going to rescue him from a tire fire.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
So it's a hilarious fight. He actually starts fighting against the big aggressive Venezuelan spider.
Like he has a fist fight with
I mean,
the spider.
it's amazing. It's hilarious. This is where, you know, Jeff Daniels really shows his chops as a physical comedian.
I own this movie for $5 on Amazon. If you haven't seen this yet, it's worth upgrading to
Absolutely.
supersize.
Absolutely.
Just to watch him try to fist fight a spider.
Fight a spider. I mean, it's great. And now all of a sudden things are burning around him.
The world is on fire and he's
The whole-
punching a spider.
Yes, the fire flames all around him. He's punching a spider, and the spider. Okay, what is it like? The spider catches on fire.
Okay, so there's an egg sac on the wall.
There's an egg sac, and he's
There's
trying to burn.
hatch.
Yes, it's starting to hatch, and the big fear is that this egg sac has the spiders who can reproduce.
And we've earlier established that he's trying to save his wine rack by nailing into the wall because that's how he knows the wall is rotting.
Yes.
Because he has a nail gun. And so he takes that nail gun and fires the spider into the wall as it bursts into flames.
Chekhov's nail gun.
It is.
It's like the spider lunges at him, is flying towards him because it's already on fire. He shoots it with the nail gun. The spider goes, and the flaming spider goes into the egg sac, catches the egg sac on fire, and now it's done.
Guys, I can't.
It's hilarious.
I can't. Look,
You can't even.
this is it's a slob masterpiece. Like,
Yeah.
it's a snobs versus slobs comedy, but the slobs are spiders. Like, I don't know how to describe this.
You're absolutely right. I think
Because he's like, I have a wine collection I must protect. This is the wine I can throw at the spider. Oh no, they're on fire. Like, it's a remarkable movie. I just, my God, like wrapping my mind around this. It's so good and yet it's a disaster. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to wrap this up?
I mean, we're done. We talked about
Yeah,
it.
basically they end up moving back to San Francisco.
And then what happens?
An earthquake.
It's hilarious because they're like, it's nice to come back to a place where everything's safe and normal. And then all of a sudden, there's an earthquake.
And what's the only thing that gets damaged? Their bottle of wine.
There's
which
the
spills on the ground.
super expensive bottle of wine.
At least they
Wait,
didn't have a spider coming out of something.
which they could have. I do like the idea that because this is a yuppie movie,
Mm-hmm.
like he could have, which by the way, I get it. It's a shitty movie. A horrible thing happened to you. He could have just taken out the cork and chugged it on the couch right then. But instead they moved to San Francisco and they said, you know what could never happen? Anything
Bad.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, the earthquake happens, and they're like, oh, yeah, that didn't even show on the Richter. But clearly everything shook around them.
Right. Let's go check on the kids just in case, and the wine spills out.
Yeah.
You spill the wine like Kermit sipping tea.
And then all of a sudden, the credits. That's it. It was a fun movie. Final thoughts.
Fuck spiders. Okay. Honest to God, if as a movie, I did like the triumphants where the spiders blew up, you know, and I don't know if the last spider was by remote control, but the funniest shit ever was when that spider just came back with like flames at it too. But you know, I did like the ending that even though they escaped the countryside, they go back to the city where
An earthquake
happens in the Chateau Timon. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
Spills.
Yeah.
And the note. But
I spill some wine.
if you like spiders, or if you don't like spiders, it's a fine movie. I thoroughly enjoyed the thriller of it, but fuck spiders.
Okay, so final question then.
Yes.
You have a bunch of people over.
Yes.
Watching a stupid comedy because, it's a party. People are drinking, eating, hanging out, and you want something on the TV. Is this one you're going to put on?
Ooh, no. I'll put on Jaws or Rush Hour 2 or something, just because I know a lot of people don't like insects in my life, and just like spiders are triggering. So, respectfully, no, I wouldn't put this at a party.
Go ahead,
It was all right. You guys seemed to like it a lot more than I did.
Charlie.
I don't usually criticize, but that was a weak summary.
Yeah.
Why didn't you like it?
Just wasn't that exciting.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, let's go with that. Alrighty. I thought it was clever. I thought it was funny. It was original. Original movies are tough to get, you know. Great horror movie, great comedy. I think it was fantastic for its time. Very practical effects heavy. They used real spiders. Nightmarish. Great movie. I recommend it, actually. I do. It's got a great cast, funny cast.
Yeah.
So.
I'll build off Charlie here. So much of the time when you talk to or listen to or whatever, read about great horror movies, if there aren't human based, the problem is always the monster.
Yeah.
It's always like, it doesn't matter if it's Bruce in Jaws, it doesn't matter if it's the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park or the Tremors in Tremors. Like, they're always a pain in the ass. And so the idea to then go real and do real spiders must have solved problems, also been a disaster nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And so to do it this way must have been in some ways harder, because spiders have very real movements that they do and real actions that they do. But also there's something to look at. And like, we haven't talked about all the deaths because this is a horror movie. You should watch it yourself. But like that scene where the old lady's drinking her milk and the spider's just around. There's just a spider fucking around. And then it bites her hand and that becomes fake for half a second. But like, the way they did this is masterful. Is this a great movie? Yeah. But it's a fun movie. And sometimes it's even harder, man. Like, I mean, I don't know if this is going to be in the movie podcast or not, but like, I bought some great movies now because they keep taking off streaming. This is not There Will Be Blood, but it's closer to Gremlins. And I would rewatch this. Like, it's closer to Tremors, and I'd rewatch this. If I was having people over and we're just going to have like a horror night and we have pizza out and some beers out, this is the kind of thing I throw on TV, because you know what? You look away for a bit when Daniels is just talking.
Mm-hmm.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden they're going to be trying to bite into a pastry at like a tea party. And there's going to be a fucking spider there. That's what makes these movies fun and stupid city. Anyway, so as we're talking, next week we're going to do something similar, where a sci-fi element is going to try to kill people. But this time it's a musical. And so we're going to watch Little Shop of Horrors. And guess what? Everyone who's been on this episode is going to be back, plus Kieko, as we talk, somewhere that's green. I'm your host, Nick Hoffman, and guess what? We're everywhere you want to be. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, not really Twitter anymore, but X. If you're on Blue Sky, if you're on Reddit,
MySpace.
I'll be on MySpace for you, buddy. We're there, and here's what we need you to do: share us, review us, because we do this because you listen, and every year you listen to us, and we want to hear from you. Thanks, everyone. That was delightful. Yes.
Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerd and Daniel Suttis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Suttis, and Nerd. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 4 license, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.